temporary copy of the record set and grab that one record that you're selecting. So what I've done is I have simply put this around it, application echo false, let it grab the record set, pull it into memory, and then application echo true. So that has the effect of cutting down a lot of that flicker, and you don't see the name question mark in the fields here. Okay, what I've also done is I've beefed up the save routine so that there you go. After my record locking, I can then determine whether or not, if there's a key in the list box, then it must be an update. If there's no key, then it's an add new, and you'll notice there's a +1 here. So if there is no key, what I'll do is I'll dmax, find the key in the table, and add 1. And then obviously during my save routine I can use that new created key when I save the record. What I can also do is set that key as the current placeholder in the list box, and I then launch the list box after update, which refetches the record. So you get the effect of after adding a record, when you hit save, it saves that record, it goes to that record in the list box, and it re-pulls up that record here. So that's quite neat. That's the whole thing. Now what I've also done is I have used some constants up here. So I've created a constant called table1, set that to contacts, form1, field1, and query1, and I've just made them all 4 characters plus the number 1. Then you see you can use those constants in your code, so that if we decide we want to copy this form, for example, I might need to copy this F12, I'm going to copy this to be my settings form, or the basis of my settings form, then what I'll be able to do is simply go into here and just change these values to match what the settings form needs. You know, the first field in the settings form, the underlying table or query for the combo box could all be just set there, and then there's nothing else you have to do in the rest of the VBA there. Of course, you could remove all of these pieces of code and create generic modularized pieces of code where you pass the name of the form or the name of the query into that modular function or procedure. So that's also something that we can do, but for now I've just made these constants, so it does make it easier to copy forms and just change a few bits, and you've got up and running forms. Of course you've got to change the fields, because settings fields won't look the same, but it will have the basic VCR buttons, list box. It's just these things that might look a bit different. We're also going to do a reports form for building reports, and that's going to be, again, very useful for that. And on top of that, we are also going to be doing a users form. Okay, so what I've done is I've added a themes table to the database so that you can change the colour scheme of your system. So let me show you that. I've put it into the users part. So there's a combo box here which shows all the names of the themes, and when you select one, it enables you to choose one that you like and then save it for that particular user. I've put the button that links to the theme table here, although of course you could move that into the settings area at some point in the future. And you can see here that the themes in the table that I've created just change the header and the footer, the background and the panel colour. The panel is this thing here, so if you copy the main form to all your other forms, then this list box or panel, which is called CBO Go To Contact, well, that will change with the theme change throughout your database if you keep it the same name. I'll show you the code that's involved. Okay, so let's look at this theme selection after update. And here we go. After update, it updates your login table and sets the colour scheme, and then it runs this routine here. I moved it into a module so that it was public. Here it is. So it's a public subroutine available for any module. And what it does, it finds the theme based on your username, and then it sets the header, the back colour, the footer, the detail, etc. Based on what theme you chose and what numbers get passed. It doesn't happen on the login page yet, so I'm going to add that now. So let's go to the login page. Let's get a design view. Let's create an event on load of the login page, and then let's paste in that the call of that routine. Okay, so there we go. So as the logins form loads, it calls that color scheme update routine. Save that and let's run it, and hey presto, we get that color scheme. Okay. Okay, so how can you hide away all this VB script from users and stop them editing the database in any way? Well, you can do that with an ACCDE file. This is an executable version of the contacts ACCDB. Here's the ACCDB, which is the one I'm editing and working on. Here's the executable version, and here are some folders that I've created and shared over the network. And this ACCDB DE file has been copied into each of these folders. All you then need is a table in the back end with a version number and a table in the front end with a version number. And if the version numbers don't match, so if you've increased the back end one to version 2 and they're still using a version 1, you can do a quick check and then run an update to update the front end to the same version. So here's the version field in my settings table at the back end. Here's my version field in my front end, and then here's the check that goes on as you load up the menu. So just after you've logged in and it loads the menu, it does the check on the version to see if the version local is less than the version in the remote. If so, it runs a procedure called update DB, and that just creates a DOS batch file which exits you out of the database and copies the new front end file to wherever it's currently located. Okay. What I've also done is in the front end, in the settings form, I've given you an easy way to update the version number and a way of executing of making the executable Okay, I'm just going to show you the code for that. And you'll see that it is in settings. Here we go. So I've actually used send keys because this is Access 2007. It prompts you, do you want to create a new file? It saves the version number to the back end. It updates the front end version number, and then it runs the send keys command, which actually goes ahead and creates the ACCDE. Okay, so the next thing to show you is the reports page. So what I've done here is in my menu I've got a reports button that launches a form which I copied from the contacts form, and you can build up a number of reports here. I've done the first one here called contact list. It uses a bit of SQL, structured query language. You can grab this SQL, by the way, from Access Query Designer if you're familiar with creating queries, dragging in tables and setting the criteria. Once you've done that, you can click on the SQL code, grab it and paste it here. It's useful because you can go ahead and kind of create loads of different reports. I've added a couple of buttons down here, Preview and Excel. I'll show you the Preview one. So that just previews whatever the SQL code is running, or the result of it. Also Excel, if you hit that, it just creates an Excel spreadsheet with those results in it. So very useful. I'll show you the code for those. These are just two fields, a text field and a memo field in the back-end table called reports, TBL reports. Preview, here's the code for preview, and what it does, it just creates a query on the fly and then opens that query for you. The Excel one, very similar, just creates the query on the fly and then uses the output to in format XLS to save that as a file. Okay, so a couple more things that I've done here with the settings form is I've added some fields to the settings table, namely the backup path field. You know about the executable path, that's where you're going to create the ACCDE, and this letters and template paths, which we'll cover later. I've also added some buttons here, back up the front end, back up the back end, compact and repair the front end, compact and repair the back end. I'll just show you the relevant pieces of code here. So back up the back end, it just takes advantage of the file system object in VBA and does a copy file from source to backup, wherever that backup path looks at. Same with the back end backup, just does a copy file, source to destination. The compact for the front end is just using send keys, and this can vary depending on which version of Access you've got, but this works quite well. And then there's the back end. Now, the problem with compacting the back end is that you can't compact if you're using the database. So what this does, it actually quits out of the database, but before it does, it generates a DOS batch file that's able to then execute using the shell command here, and that will actually do the compact and repair for you. Okay. So a quick demonstration of one of those things. So let's have a go at the backup thing. And I've got a little message to say yes, that backup file has been created, and so we should see 441. There we go, 441 has been created. That's a copy of the front end.